This video is going to go over the quiz review for P2. So with number 1, it says to simplify and write with positive exponents. We're going to distribute the exponent first. That's on the outside. So because this negative is inside the parentheses with the x, it's going to stay that way. So negative x squared would just be x squared. And then y squared. And then z to the second raised to the second. We're going to multiply those out, and it would be z to the fourth. Then I'm going to repeat that with the second one. X would get raised to the second power. Y to the second raised to the second would become y to the fourth. And now we multiply. So x squared times x squared, we're going to add those exponents, and I'd get x to the fourth. Y squared, y to the fourth, I'd get y to the sixth. And then z is by itself, so it's z to the fourth. Number 2 says simplify and write with positive exponents. So the first thing I'm going to do is move anything that has a negative exponent. So x to the 1/3 is going to stay because it's positive. X to the 2/9 is going to stay because it's positive. But the rest are going to switch. So y to the 3/4 goes to the denominator, and y to the 1/2 goes to the numerator. Then you want to see where the exponent is larger. 2/9 is actually smaller than 1/3 because 3/9 would be 1/3. So I'm going to take this, bring it to the top. So I'm going to subtract 2/9 from here. 1/3 minus 2/9. I need the same denominator, so I multiply by 3 here. 3/9 minus 2/9 is 1/9. And it's going to go in the numerator because that's where the exponent was bigger. So x to the 1/9 is in the top. And then you go to the y's. 1/2 and 3/4. 3/4 is bigger than 1/2, so I'm going to subtract 1/2 from here and eliminate the y from the numerator. 3/4, this would be minus 2/4, which is 1/4. And y to the 1/4 would be in the denominator. Okay, number 3 says 3 minus 2√3 squared. Remember, you cannot distribute the exponent when it's a sum or difference. So for these, we duplicate, so it'd be 3 minus 2√3 times 3 minus 2√3, and then we FOIL. So first, 3 times 3 is 9. Outer, 3 times negative 2√3 is negative 6√3. Inner, negative 6√3 again. And last, positive 2√3 times, or 2 times 2, sorry, which is 4, and then √3 times √3, which is 3. So I have 9. There are 2 of these. They are both negative, so minus 12√3. Don't change the root, just combine the coefficients, plus the 12 from the 4 times 3. And I get 21 minus 12√3. For number 4, you've got a square root in the denominator, and it can't stay there, so we're going to rationalize. We're going to multiply both the top and the bottom by the square root of 5. 3 times square root of 5 is 3√5, and then root 2 times root 5 is square root 10. The denominator is just square root 5 times square root 5, which is 5. And remember, you cannot cancel these 5s into the 5 or the 10 because 1 is outside the radical and 1 is underneath. So it stays just that way. Number 5 says simplify and write with positive exponents. So we're going to distribute the exponents. This is a negative 2 in parentheses, so that's negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4. Then this is x squared. Then this is y squared squared, so it's y to the 4th. Then I'd get a negative x squared, so this negative, again, is going to go away. It's like as though it was a negative 1 here. Negative 1 squared would make that just 1, so the negative is eliminating. But x squared squared would be x to the 4th. Y squared squared would be y to the 4th. Then I've got a positive 4, x to the 2nd, and x to the 4th, which multiplies to give you x to the 6th because we add the exponents, and y to the 4th and y to the 4th, y to the 8th because, again, you're adding the exponents. For 6, since they both square root 14 and square root 28 are under the radical and they have a factor in common, you can simplify. So 14 goes into itself once and into 28 twice. This becomes 3 over square root 2. And then it gets rationalized. So square root 2 over square root 2, and that becomes 3 square root 2 over 2. And that's my answer. Second page starts with number 7. Simplify and write with positive exponents. So for 7, you've got the negative exponents mixed in with positives. The first thing you're going to do is move anything that's negative. So y to the negative 1 is going to move to the bottom, and the z to the negative 4th is going to move to the top. Everything else stays where it is. So 3x squared, z to the 2nd stays in the top. The z to the 4th is going to go to the top. The 4x stays in the bottom, y to the 3rd stays in the bottom, but the y to the 1st is going to join it, and the z to the 4th moves to the top. So we're done with that. Now you have the bases are the same in both the top and the bottom. So I get 3x to the 2nd. I'm going to combine these. Z squared times z to the 4th is z to the 6th. And then 4x y to the 3rd times y to the 1st is y to the 4th. And then we've got an x in the bottom, 2 in the top. So I subtract, leave it in the top where the exponent was larger. And I've got y to the 4th and to the 6th. Oh, sorry. Those are different variables, so they're going to stay. So I get 3x z to the 6th over 4y to the 4th. Number 8, we're going to distribute this exponent. So 3 squared becomes 9. X squared to the 2nd power is x to the 4th. Y to the 4th to the 2nd power is y to the 8th. Plus 2 times negative 1 would be a negative 2. X to the 1st times x to the 3rd would be x to the 4th. Y to the 2nd and y to the 6th would be y to the 8th. These have the same variables with the same exponents, so they are like terms, and we combine them by doing 9 minus 2. So I'd get 7. I leave the variable and the exponent alone when I'm adding or subtracting like terms, so I'd get 7x to the 4th, y to the 8th. Number 9, 4 times the square root is 63. So 63 is going to break down. I can do 7 and 9 is 3 and 3. I have 2 3's, so one's going to come to the outside and get multiplied by the 4 that's already there. And I have 12 on the outside. 7 is left underneath because it doesn't have a pair. 10, I'm going to distribute here. 2 times root 3 times root 3 would be 2 times 3. Minus square root 3 times square root 15, you can either write as the square root of 45, but then I'm going to break it down again so I can also keep it as the square root of 3 times 15. So the 2 times 3 becomes 6, but this 15 is going to get broken down to 3 and 5. And then we've got a pair of 3's that's going to come to the outside of that radical. And I get minus 3. The 5 is left underneath. Number 10, simplify right with positive exponents. We're going to move anything that's negative, and this time we can simplify the coefficients on the front. So 14 and 16 are both divisible by 2. This would be 7 and 8. So 7 stays in the top, 8 stays in the bottom. X to the 2nd is going to move to the bottom. Y to the 3rd, negative 3rd is going to move to the bottom. X to the negative 4th is going to go to the top. Y to the negative 3rd is going to go to the top. Now you've got x to the 4th over, so the 7 and the 8 stay. You've got x to the 4th over x to the 2nd. So I get x squared, and then the y to the 3rd and the y to the 3rd completely cancel out, leaving me with 7x squared over 8. Number 12, the 2 that are underneath the radical can be simplified. They're both divisible by 2, so I would say 2 goes into 10 5 times, and 2 goes into 72 36 times. So I have 5 square root 36 over square root 5. Now square root 36 becomes 6, and this is 30 over square root 5. Cannot leave the square root in the bottom, so we rationalize by multiplying both the top and the bottom by it. 30 root 5 over 5, which 5 can go into 30 6 times, and this becomes 6 square root 5. 13 has a negative exponent. So I'm going to make this 1 over negative 144 to the 3 halves. Now the negative on the 144 is not in parentheses, so it's going to stay out front. The 2 is going to slide over to become the square root of 144, and the exponent's going to drop down. The square root of 144 is 12, and then 12 to the third would be 144 times 12, which is 1,728. And this would be 1 over negative 1,728. Number 14, this time we've got a square root in the bottom, but it's an expression. So instead of just multiplying by square root 3, we have to multiply by the opposite. So this is going to be 4 minus square root 3 in both the numerator and the denominator. Now the top is not opposite, so you can't use the shortcut. You're going to FOIL it out. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times negative 3 is negative 4 square root 3. 4 times negative 3, negative 4 square root 3. And negative root 3 times negative root 3 is positive 3. Combine my like terms on that. 16 plus 3 is 19. Minus 4 root 3 minus 4 root 3 is minus 8 root 3. The denominator, you can either FOIL out or you can use the shortcut. So shortcut would be 4 squared minus square root 3 squared, 16 minus 3, which is 13. And then it stays just like that. Two radicals here. I'm going to break them apart. So 27 is 3 and 9, which is 3 and 3. There are 2 3s. One comes to the outside. That's 15, and the 3 is left underneath. 300 would be 3 and 100, which is 2 and 50, 2 and 25, 5 and 5. Or you could have broken 100 to 10 and 10 and taken it out there. That's fine too. From here, I'm going to cancel out. The 2 2s come to the outside, and the 2 5s come to the outside. The 3 is left underneath. So I'm left with minus 2 times 5, which is 10, square root 3. Now they both have the same radical, so we can combine them. 15 minus 10 is 5, and the radical stays as the square root of 3. 16, simplify right with positive exponents. So on the first parentheses, we're raising this whole thing to the power of 0, which means that whole thing is 1. The second one we're going to distribute. This is negative 2 in parentheses squared, so that becomes a positive 4x squared, y squared, which is just 4x squared, y squared. (17), we're going to break that radical down again. 2 and 100, which was 10 and 10. So again, if you see it there, you can stop. The 10 comes to the outside, and this would be negative 30 square root 2. Good luck studying, guys, and on your quiz for P2, A, B, and C.